Hi, my name is Sarah Berlanga, and I'm one of the community education specialists in the Rape Crisis and Victim Services Department at the Women's Center of Tarrant County. This April marks the 20th official Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, and I wanted to take some time to talk to you about this important issue. The term sexual assault is sometimes used as an umbrella term to describe a lot of different behaviors, from sexual harassment all the way to rape. However, in Texas, the definition of sexual assault is the same as rape. It is anal, oral, or vaginal penetration with a body part or an object, or being made to penetrate someone else with a sexual organ. This is sex that is without consent, where consent has been withdrawn, or where consent was gained through coercion. So let's break down those three parts of the law regarding consent. Consent is defined as permission for something to happen or agreement to do something. If sexual assault is defined as sex that is without consent, then this means that there was no permission or no agreement. This implies that there should be a yes that is present, because not hearing no and hearing yes are two totally different situations. Remember that sexual assault can also happen if consent is withdrawn. This means that someone can start engaging in sexual activity, then change their mind at any time. If the other person does not respect that they have withdrawn their consent, it is no longer sex. It is sexual assault. The last part of the sexual assault definition says that sexual assault happens when consent was gained through coercion. Coercion is compelling someone to act against their will by using threats or force. We often think of situations where someone uses a weapon or threatens to physically harm the other person, but coercion can be more subtle than that as well. It can include using blackmail or extortion. For example, if the survivor did something illegal, the offender may threaten to report them to police or to child welfare services. If the victim sends nude photos or videos, the offender may threaten to expose those photos or videos if the victim does not comply with their demands. It can also include withholding basic needs, such as food, clothing, or shelter, unless the victim performs sexual acts. In summary, there are a few things to remember about what consent is. Consent is clear. All parties have to give clear permission to engage in sexual activity. Consent is coherent. If someone is unconscious or cannot resist sexual activity because of drugs or alcohol, they cannot legally give consent. Consent is present for every act. Consent for one type of sexual activity is not consent for all types of sexual activity. There needs to be communication and not assumptions about sexual boundaries. Consent is present every time. Just because someone has consented before does not mean that they will consent every time. Consent is for adults. With very few exceptions, people under the age of 18 in Texas cannot legally consent to sex. On the other hand, consent is not silence or the absence of a no. Consent is not submission out of fear. It is not implied in a long-term relationship or marriage. Nobody signs the right to their body away when they sign their marriage certificate. Consent is not when someone is severely intoxicated or passed out. And consent is not using coercion or pressure to persuade someone into sex. So here are some red flags that someone does not respect consent. 1, they pressure or guilt you into doing things that you don't want to do. 2, they make you feel like you owe them. This could be because you're married, dating, maybe they've given you a special gift or some money. They react negatively with sadness, anger, resentment, guilt trips, things like that if you say no to something or if you do not immediately consent. 4, they ignore your wishes and do not pay attention to nonverbal cues that could show that you're not consenting. For example, pulling or pushing away, moving your face to avoid a kiss, things like that. 5, they threaten to get you in trouble or release private information about you if you do not do what they want you to do. Here at the Women's Center, we want to help create a culture of consent in our community. We want people of all ages to know that they have a right to make decisions about their bodies and to draw boundaries that have to be respected. We educate children, adults, and professionals about the issues of sexual violence and about preventative measures. We encourage people to evaluate the media that they consume because we know that movies, TV, and music are so influential in shaping our culture and social norms. For so long, these mediums have been wrought with sexual violence and harassment for the purpose of comedy or just for shock value. It has been seen from beloved children's cartoons, for example, Pepe Le Pew, to classic films and popular TV. These situations have helped contribute to a rape culture. That is, an environment in which rape is prevalent and which sexual violence against women is normalized and excused in media and pop culture. Fortunately, there has been progress in recent years. Conversations about problematic themes and characters have attracted national attention. Positive representations about consent have begun to find their way into our media. For example, cartoons like Frozen. And to help us in our goal of creating a consent culture, here are some practical things that you can do. Support policies in your local, state, and national government that reduce inequality based on gender, race, sexual orientation, or any other type of inequality. Become aware of media influences on your personal life. Support brands that use ethical practices and use positive gender messaging in their marketing. If you have children in your life, help teach them at a young age that they have the right to make decisions about their bodies. Also, help them rise above traditional gender roles. Create your own media that has positive gender messages. And support legislation that requires comprehensive sex education with an emphasis on consent and healthy relationships to be taught in all schools. Together, we can change our culture. If you or someone you know is a survivor of sexual violence, the Women's Center is here to help. Please reach out to us to access our free services. Thank you, and have a great day.